It should be literally on your screen. Hey, everybody.
Hey.
We have the wonderful Lily Axelrod with us today. Lily, great to have you today. Aaron Hall, our resident guapo, and, of course, Greg and I. Good to see you guys. How you guys doing? Aaron, is it snowing? Is that why the windows are covered up? Or is it,
No, I just get this weird backlight, but it's not snowing. We're back to 60 degrees and sunny.
Yeah. So I love about Denver, just like that. I don't know about Memphis, but my farm in Tennessee about floated away last week.
Oh, no.
We got. Oh, my gosh.
It's pretty gorgeous here now.
Our rivers are flooding, but the sun is out, so can't complain.
I can tell you, Lake Chickamauga and the Tennessee River was pretty darn full last weekend. It's part of it. So, hey, welcome, everybody. We want to give a couple updates about what's going on. I think we want to start with, of course, with the most pressing case, which is the H-1B lottery abuse case, because the judge hasn't issued a decision.
Yeah.
Now, Greg, you find it suspect at all, suspicious, that hours before the new lottery starts, they announce they've reached the cap?
Yeah, funny that. And the way they did it as well was super confusing, where they sort of had, all of a sudden people started getting notices that lawyers started seeing that clients were not selected, which made people think that there was a lottery happening. Because they
was selected, yes.
Right, but everybody was not selected apparently on there, and they announced that it was all done, which defies the math that we knew beforehand, and also it's suspiciously convenient that they got precisely the number that they needed.
They're not that smart. I'm sorry, guys, at USCIS, that's just not that smart. Because our math geniuses are telling us that what you just announced is statistically impossible. They also pointed out that the grand problem of verifying this is the USCIS never announces how many new H-1Bs they issued each year. They group them all together with renewals and new ones. So you never know exactly. And I have actually filed a FOIA on this previously, and they wrote me back and said, see our statistical report. I said, no, that's not how this works. So we're going to FOIA them for their 2020, 2021, and 2022 results for new applications. I want to know exactly what percentage of people applied, because using the statistical formulas that we have and looking at their rapidly shrinking denial rate, there's just still no statistical way they could have reached a number. There's just not. I'm not calling them a liar. I'm just calling them bad at math. So I feel better about that. As far as Judge McFadden, we're waiting. There's nothing we can do.
I don't think you need to call them a liar, but what their logic may be that they're not required to use up all the numbers, so therefore they can declare the lottery. They can declare it over anytime they want.
I don't see how they can legally, if we go to court on this, claim that they don't have to issue all the visas when Congress specifically requires.
I agree with you. I'm telling you what they will tell the judge, which is that we're not required to issue all of them. That's a maximum. It's not a mandate.
Well, you may have noticed that no one filed anything with the judge yesterday to let him know that the numbers were reached, or that there's suspicions about whether they really use the numbers. Because, we can't file stuff we don't know, right? All we can do is speculate. But again, as we said, the judge knew that we really wanted an answer. Now, does this bode well for the judge striking on the lottery? I don't think so. But here on the flip side is what's happened. USCIS first has cracked down administratively on employers. Now, will that have a detrimental effect? To some extent. I think some employers will be deterred from using similar group companies, because that was happening. Guys would say, hey, I've got 5 companies. We'll file 5 times for you. CIS says, don't be doing that. When we find out, we're going to come after you. 2, they also said, if you know about any other company, the person might have said, hey, look, my other employer will you file for me? Can't do that either. Now, that was just in the attestation that they did that. But, Greg, would that have happened if we had not sued them?
Hell no.
No, it clearly wouldn't. It clearly would not have. And we know that in January, in their upcoming regulatory changes, that they're going to be changing the lottery. Now, will that mean they'll go to a single entry? I don't know. But there's more coming, is what I can tell you. There's more coming. And none of that doesn't, obviously for 2023, that doesn't help you. But, I mean, it bodes well for the future, but not necessarily for this year. I'm still going to be very curious. I still think in 500,000 entries into the H-1B raffle this year, but we'll see. Hopefully there's less, but I just don't think that could be. So that's the upside. And as soon as we get a hearing from the notice from the judge, we will let everybody know, probably have an immediate live here so we can get out to people the information about what that says. But if a judge was going to stop them, I think he would have stopped them beforehand. So let's see if he's going to let this continue. Any more? You guys want to add any more on that? No, nothing at all. Greg.
Yes, sir.
EB5.
EB5, yes. So we are definitely, we announced this week that you have to learn how to spell USCIS, Chuck.
At least I didn't spell it.
USCIS. That's a mistake USCIS would make.
I didn't write it. CIS US sucks, did I?
We have seen return addresses for USCIS with immigration spelled incorrectly, so we can be forgiven.
There we go. I'm going to put that back.
There we go. All right, correct. Thank you. On there. Yeah. Anyway, so the EB5 case, we talked about it a little bit last week, but we are proceeding with it. We've had a nice response so far, so we know that we're going to proceed. This case is about two different things. One is about finally fixing a faulty interpretation of the statute that never really was that consequential. It didn't really matter that much in the past that USCIS had been interpreting it incorrectly, but this is unprecedented as far as the gap between reauthorization. It inflicted a lot more pain, and really sort of like and people had asked, well, why didn't you sue on this earlier? Why have you waited 8 months on this? And the reason is because USCIS had, first of all, if you litigate something, it could take quite a while to fix it. And the assumption was that, this would not last that long. And the other part of it is that USCIS made an announcement to members of Congress. I mean, it was quietly done, but the word got out and we got from reliable sources that they're going to start denying EB5 cases beginning March 11th if Congress doesn't act before that. So the statutory part of it is basically just saying that it's a little complicated. I know a lot of people that don't know EB5 won't care, but the program didn't really die in June. It was just the one aspect of it, which is a set aside of a certain number of visas, which is really not that consequential. If you interpret it that way, USCIS says, no, the whole program expired and we're going to deny all the visas. And state has said the same thing as far as, when they fought us last year on EB5, they were taking that same position as well. So anyway, this suit is going to challenge that interpretation so that the program has to reopen. And then the other part of it is it's a mandamus case. Some of these people have been waiting like years for their green cards. It's absolutely ridiculous that they've had to tie up all this. For some people, you may think it's like all billionaires that are applying for EB5. No, it's a lot of people who basically finally had enough equity in their apartment or their house. They sold it, and this is like their life savings that they put into this program. And it's all been tied up for potentially getting a denial in the end. It's terrible. So we are we're challenging the delays as well in that case. And if we lose, then we want the government to have to refund the fees. So that's what that case is about.
And so, and what's interesting, I love this is, again, immigration taking a look at a statute that they have interpreted incorrectly for 30 years. They got struck down on this by Judge Maida, Aaron, in the 212F context. Judge, the interpretations always seem to go one direction. Yeah,
when
against immigrants, which is exactly how the Supreme Court said you should not interpret statutes. You should interpret them in favor of the immigrant.
We were
not
just
against-
having a conversation about something that we're probably going to be suing on before this, which I can't tell you about, but it's like another example of where USCIS is getting ready to screw a lot of people on there based on an interpretation. So we're not talking about that now, but you'll probably learn about it.
But if you're an 85 and you want more about the litigation, here's the link below. You can go to this link and find out more about joining the litigation. I feel really good about this litigation because the statute that they're misinterpreting, honestly, I hadn't read it in 30 years, but it's clear. They just are not reading it right. Maybe they're bad at high school English besides being bad at high school math. I'm not really quite sure. Here's the other thing, Greg, that really gets me about this. All of a sudden, they want to adjudicate EB-5s, but they don't want to adjudicate EADs.
Right.
I mean, they have all these, all the people sitting around, Bob, I know I'm highly specialized and can only adjudicate EB-5s. I don't want to have the disdain to have to do EADs. Why don't they just work on stuff that is backlogged that they don't have to worry, that they need to worry about, rather than stuff that they don't really think they have to worry about? That's what fries my bacon.
Going out of the way to hurt people instead of spending their resources to do their jobs.
Great comment, Lily. Let's hurt people today. Who can we screw today, Bob? Oh, let's look. We've got a long list. All right. So, which leads us to the the EAD litigation.
Speaking of which,
I
had somebody ask me on Twitter the other day, I was complaining about another case that was delayed and folks were talking about EADs, and someone said, what can we do about this? Why can't, besides just sitting around and wait? Well,
so Aaron,
what's going on?
What's going on, Aaron?
All right, let's talk about Kang. This is the EAD litigation, and it's in I want to describe kind of what the posture is. So what have they done? Well, what we always thought that they would do, which is adjudicate all of our plaintiffs' applications, which is a good thing. So good for all of our plaintiffs who stepped up and they got their adjudications. But that's not the end of it for us. We're not just trying to get our plaintiffs adjudicated in this case. We're actually bringing it as a class action because we are all sick of this. And I think everybody across the country is sick of this. So the posture is right now they've got a motion to dismiss, and they let the judge know, hey, all of the plaintiffs have been adjudicated, so why don't we just dismiss this case? But then we reminded the judge, no, wait a minute, this is a class action. There's a motion for a class action pending, and this all needs to be decided together because let's go ahead and fix this once and for all. So what is going to happen next is the judge needs to rule on two motions. The first is a government motion to stay briefing on the class certification until after the judge decides on the motion to dismiss. That makes no sense because whether the case is certified as a class will have a lot of bearing on whether dismissal is appropriate. In other words, if class certification is appropriate, then dismissal is certainly not. So I expect the judge to deny that motion. And then the second issue is the motion for class certification itself. That has been briefed by our side, but not by the government, and so we are waiting on that.
That's due, isn't it, Aaron? That's like this week.
Yeah. And they haven't gotten a stay, so they're on the hook to submit it. So
he may just rule on the motion for stay by not ruling on the motion for stay.
Right. So that's where this is at. If the motion for class certification is granted, then I would expect and hope that USCIS will come to the table and start to work with us on potential solutions that don't require a judge's order.
So,
yeah, we got some good ideas today in that AILA report that was just released on the EAs. That a number of recommendations for things that will certainly, I think, help the situation
there's
of USCIS.
so many simple things they could do. There's such simple solutions. This is
the receipts. The receipts are the EADs. That's what they need to do.
It's just so simple. It's not. It's a policy change. You don't even need to make a regulatory change. It's just so simple. I was on a broadcast today on politics here in Georgia, and they said, "Well, what has Biden done on immigration?" And they said, "Well, he's trying to fix this MPP program." The MPP program, first of all, is, well, important to those people. It's like a pimple on the butt of a flea. It's a
also
nothing burger in the big picture of what's going on. It's important, but there's so much more.
Right.
and they also haven't tried very hard.
No, they
They've
have not.
re-implemented it.
Well, the Supreme Court took the case. They're going to win in the Supreme Court. He's a president. He can make and change rules whenever he wants to. So, in any event, it's.
This is the same administration that didn't think TPS was merited for Afghanistan.
And apparently
Or
doesn't
Ukraine
think
either.
TPS is, or for Ukraine.
Yeah. I mean, those things might be coming, but I mean, it's like Afghanistan. It's 8 months now, and you still haven't done TPS for a country that's run by the Taliban.
Right. And these people are here on what? I mean, there's like 50,000 people here on what? Because they got on an airplane.
Yeah.
I know we're getting off course here, but I just want to mention, I saw a tweet by Austin Coker. You guys know him?
Oh, I love Austin Coker.
The
Yeah.
best. Hey, Austin.
And he said I'm going to get the number wrong, but something like 500, no, it's going to be less than that. Some 100,000 people from Ukraine had been accepted to Moldova, which would have been the equivalent of the United States accepting, within a week, like millions.
4.1 million.
Yeah.
That's where my wife's
people-
family is.
And
She's
people
Moldova.
freak out when we get, what they call
15,000.
waves of asylum seekers from Central America, when it's just a drip in the total population.
And we need them. It's like we need the labor.
Right.
On this show today was a guy who runs a blog called It's God's Country. And what it's a blog about is about rural Georgia and how the massive problem, 118 of the 157 counties in Georgia had more deaths than births last decade. So literally a shrinking population. He says the only way to fix it is immigration. I said, yeah, I mean, and the thing is, there are counties in Iowa, Utah that are literally inviting immigrants to come in, but they just can't get here. Refugees have guaranteed jobs in America today. They're just available if you set them in the right place. All right, we got to jump to the other 900-pound gorilla, which is the DV 2022 litigation. We are still taking signups for this. So if you go to this website right here, taking plaintiffs, we're going to add them. We're going to give a 3-week window because it's still a little bit early in the process. And Aaron, who was the case assigned to?
Judge Mehta, he's
Now,
back.
I had a talk with government counsel yesterday, unidentified, who was not surprised that case was assigned to Judge Mehta, even though we were, because we believe that it's all random, right? But he said sometimes the clerks, when they get a case and they say it's similar to another case, kind of like that, it's not random. So maybe Judge Mehta doesn't know that, but maybe it's not random.
Like a 1 in 27 chance? I forget how many judges there are.
Well, I'm grateful for it, and it's going to be a fun argument in that case, and I think we're going to move forward pretty quickly once we add additional plaintiffs. Keeping in mind, if you're a plaintiff and we win, you win. If you're not a plaintiff and we win, I don't think you win. I mean,
Depends what the judge orders, but
we know where Judge Mehta stands on that issue. So,
Chuck, I've had some questions, and I know Aaron is, from both Ukrainian and Russians that are selectees in DV 2022, asking basic questions like, what the hell do I do on there? First of all, I think that, and they certainly are still eligible to be in the case, but we will probably, hopefully, have some answers by the time we actually get decisions from the judge regarding sort of like what's happening with those populations and the DV winners. But we certainly, I think, we'll try and we've seen this come up previously. I think with Afghans, we've seen it come up with other populations, but. You're certainly. I think these folks should certainly still try and pursue it. The DV 2022.
Absolutely, and maybe your last chance to get out before Putin destroys your country. I don't know what's going on there. By the way, on the DV stuff, the government is still trying to insist to Judge Mehta to postpone everything and stay his case. And Judge Mehta has a rule. The government's reply to our response, their motion to stay, was longer than their motion for stay. It was longer, and because we don't get to, we could ask to file a SIR reply, but life's too short. If the judge was going to stay this, I think he would have done so already. I do. Because at this point, they are 45 days from their projected, we're done, we can start issuing visas. Why at this point would he stop them from doing that? And why would he all of a sudden decide to change his mind? And maybe he was wrong about reserving visas. Because that's what they're telling him. We think you're wrong about reserving visas, and we're going to win on appeal because you're wrong. So you should believe us now.
I have a prediction.
Yes.
I predict that the State Department will try and use the Russian invasion of Ukraine as an excuse.
They already did.
Why they are not issuing DV visas around the world.
They already did. They said one of the reasons that you should stay is because this case involves the president's authority to tell the State Department not to issue visas when there's a 212F, by the way, which we're using to keep out the Russian oligarchs involved in hostilities in Ukraine. It's like when they're too busy to...
They haven't said that that's the reason why they're not adjudicating DV 2022s yet.
Right,
that's true. But I bet, when
it's... They will.
When it's adjustment of status, they blame the Afghan paroles.
This is being recorded on March 1st, 2022. I called it.
It's going to come up. We will cite to this in our brief in July when that comes up as part of this. And remember, State Department 212F is to not issue not visas, but entry. It's CBP's job. All right? CBP's job, not yours.
Chuck, do you have a banner for Go or DV 2021?
I do. I'm going to pull up Go here. We'll let us know what we're going to do here. Hold on. I'll get up to it. Go. Here's our friends in Go. There you go. So that's kind of where we are with the Go stuff. It's still pending in front of the judge. The same is true for Gomez-Acker. By the way, this reminds me, Greg, circling back to our first discussion on H's with USCIS basically canceling out the whole lottery on the last day of the year. Could it be that they run the same software that the Department of State does and cannot run two visa processes at the same time in the same system? I'm just asking for a friend. Is that possible? Is it the same vendor?
Anything is possible, especially when it comes to incompetence.
That is true. All right, K-1 Manila. K-1 Manila, we are filing probably in the next 30 minutes our update to the judge. 14 cases have issued visas.
This is of the 80 or so remaining.
The 80, which means the rest are not. And we gave the judge the breakdown. We will not be releasing that document publicly because it is basically everybody's name and their spouse, fiance's name. So, if we redacted it would be basically blank. So just let you know we've updated the judge. And the judge wouldn't ask for this if he didn't want to move forward on the motion to dismiss. So,
and we can say that.
Frankly, let me finish, Lily. I think it's going to be very powerful to the judge to see that this thing's been pending, close to a year, it seems like at this point, and they've only done 14. He's not going to be happy. Sorry, Lily. I didn't mean to interrupt.
I'm sorry. I interrupted you. So that's 14 of the 80 who were remaining. We had 142 couples, I want to say. So the judge asked how many of those remaining are still remaining, and we were able to combine that data with the documentarily qualified dates that the government gave us some months ago. So now we're able to show the judge once again that when they say they process these in order, that's just false, right? Or in general, the folks who have been transferred to the consulate on average probably have less recent DQ dates, right? But there are plenty of folks who have been sent to the consulate who have older, who were documentarily qualified after folks were still stuck at the NVC. I mean, it's really clear that they're just not going strictly in order. So
wait, first in, first out. First in, first out. That's all they say. First, you're saying that's not true? So they have a math problem. There appears to be an English problem. and apparently there's been some sort of ordering problem. So we'll maybe some tutoring would help with that. We've also in the Moscow case, Judge Mehta, who's also in the Moscow case, has asked for an update tomorrow. So Lily, if you would give us the most updated, if you're a Ponomarenko plaintiff, please update Lily on the database. Lily sent an email out.
You're all about to receive, if you haven't received it already, an email from our team and from James reminding you to give us an update, please, today. There are a number of you who haven't given us an update in a while, so our spreadsheet says that you're still stuck at the NVC, but since we haven't heard from you in some months, we need to know whether that's still true.
What's interesting is Judge Mehta, it's like he gave us this notice yesterday to file it tomorrow. He's probably thinking, is there a Russian case? I recall a Russian case on my document. It must be a Russian case. Find out what's going on there. So that'd be great. All right, we don't have any update on the Rio case or the London case, but please continue to update Lily, and hopefully those judges will shortly get around to adjudicating the applications themselves.
And by update Lily, you mean fill out the online form.
Fill out the online form, I know.
I can't process all your emails.
All right, we've already answered the Go appeal. On the appeal cross appeal, there's, we have to wait for the government to file their brief, and that's not even due yet, is it? I don't recall a due date. No, so that's just kind of out there. Pretending if there's no stay, they're going to have to implement the order. There may be nothing left at the end of that case. On Go, we've updated as well. Alex, last week, OMB completed the review of Rule 1615 AC 73. Any explanation of how long it will take you to implement premium processing? I mean, your guess is as good as ours. I mean, this agency is in complete disarray. I don't know.
The last I heard on that was now that they've been cleared to do it, they are saying, well, we don't have the staff to do it.
Well, that's what I was going to say. You can't take the money if you can't do the case in 15 days. Right. So it doesn't matter how much money you can make off of it. If you haven't ramped up the bodies.
The existing premium processing folks haven't told them their secret about issuing an RFE on the 15th day for a document they already have.
So I haven't checked usajobs.gov recently. I don't know if they're still hiring lots of USCIS employees, but hopefully they have been. Ayman Abdurrahman, I am the FAQ guy. We did fix the FAQ almost right away. I wish you had some of your dedication. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Ayman. I don't know what particular FAQ this was, but
welcome aboard.
Awesome. All right, we got Jensen Pacoy. Any news on the Gomez appeal? We just did that really quick. They haven't announced any demographics like they did last year. And I don't know exactly which demographics he's talking about. Is this the H? This is a 1204 when we were talking about the H's. Because keep in mind, the Trump administration was very public with all the people using the H-1B program because they were trying to embarrass companies not to use the H-1B program. I think this is a function more
throw a little racism in there as well.
Yeah, that's good. Racism is good too. This is probably a function more of, look, they got 80 things to do, and this is not in the top 79. Is my guess. Let's see. We missed Lily. Can they start sending interviews for CN higher than 21,000, or is it for April DV 2022? This goes to the whole issue of the visa bulletin. Greg, your prediction on the visa bulletin, will it be current by June again this year?
Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing that that's probably that we're not going to see a big change there.
So the answer to your question is, you can't send in the program until the start of the month that your number gets ready, that you're current. Isn't that right? The way the DV works. So for the DV visa lottery, they're at what number did he say? Well, you don't know what. I don't know what continent you're on. I mean, so it's tough. I mean, is it Asia? It appears to be Asia. I don't know. You got me. I'm a little. The reality is we're not the number guys. You should talk to Simon, if you're the number of questions.
Abu Dhabi it's actually here. You could probably type your question and he'll answer it.
Right here. Ayman Abdurrahman. Abu Dhabi Embassy is giving huge resources to E3 visa. Totally ignores DV. Well, that's because they're illegally prioritizing it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, I agree. And a shout out to Aaron. Reddy, will there ever be any action against people who file a second lottery with a different employer? Well, that's what we. This goes to the H-1B lottery. This actually goes to the regulation that hopefully they'll create, or we win our case, one or the other. We'll see.
Right. What we're trying to get to is where people, if they want to file a second application with a different employer, and it might be perfectly legitimate that they have 2 job offers, that they only get counted once for purposes of the selection. It's not the number of applications, it's being able to increase your chances of getting selected that's the problem. If everybody just was treated the same and they just fixed the algorithm, this lawsuit would go away instantly.
You know, if they had an H-1B lottery that wasn't employer focused, but was employee focused, so okay, you are eligible for an H-1B. You have 90 days to have some employer somewhere file for you. This problem goes away. It also takes the burden off the employer. I mean, that's just an idea. If USCIS is listening.
Yeah, well, I mean, and also it doesn't violate the requirements that it be employer petition, because the lottery is not about, you don't have to file petitions for it. So
Right.
if you did it the way you suggested, you wouldn't be violating the statute, and the employer is still ultimately the petitioner.
And it actually goes to the whole alien issue within the statute. So I'm just saying, it's an easy solution in immigration. Min, go back to the first 10 minutes of today's program, and you'll see the explanation of the use case. I agree. It is robbery. Britt said clickable link. Britt, I don't know how to make a clickable link in StreamYard. All right.
I don't think you can.
Don't harass me. I thought it's a clickable link on my screen. I don't know.
Take your phone out and take a picture.
Yeah, there you go.
Or Google us. You'll find it if you search
Google
for
us.
ImmPact
Google.
DV 2022. Yeah.
Oh, Britt says Ukrainian DVs are being assigned to Frankfurt. That's great
That's
news.
actually very helpful. Is it, Britt, I mean, if you can type, are you hearing about only the IVs? What about non-immigrants also? I'd be curious as far as what's going on there, because I have got some Ukrainians that are in Dusseldorf right now that just contacted me yesterday, and I'm trying to figure out where to send them.
I did see a great meme yesterday. It was a memo from the Germans to the EU, which said, let me get this straight before we go any further. You want us to have a bigger military, take that military into Poland, and then fight Russia. We want a clarification before we go any further.
Oh no.
I thought that was hilariously for those of you history buffs out there, I thought that was kind of funny, actually. Chris, tell me, what can we do to sheer abuse or swag? I know people keep sending me the Reddits, the Telegrams, the Facebooks of all this blatant fraud. And all I can tell you is I'm pretty sure at this point that the government knows that's going on, which is why.
They know what's going on, and they don't do it, and they aren't willing to fix it.
Well, they did at least modify the
Instructions.
checkbox for employers. So
Yeah, but we haven't seen any evidence that they actually are going to do anything further than that.
Right. BPM, we did talk about DV 2020 a few minutes ago. Still pending. Canceled passport rule for DV 2021. If you made a mistake or Smith, you are eligible now. Mistake. Oh, I think what they're talking about, if you filed a DV 2020, got picked, and your passport number is wrong or something like that, that's not an issue anymore. That's a Britt Simon issue, honestly. That's not part of our litigation. Let's see. Saint Sent, good to see you. Does Russian affect goal implementation? Only in the context of where Russians and Ukrainians are going to go. Ukrainians are going to go to Frankfurt. We do not know where Russians will go. Poland.
We were talking about that, though. I mean, it seems like because of the no-fly over Europe for Russians, and my guess is we were talking about Tashkent, we were talking about Kazakhstan, we were talking about Belarus. Our consulate's closed there. That was announced yesterday.
So was it? I was wondering if we were going to close it.
So Minsk is done on there, but my guess is that you're going to have to look at countries that don't actively, are not actively opposing Putin, which is not, it's an increasingly smaller number.
You could go to Guangzhou, which shows me not want to go to Guangzhou.
Yeah. Go East.
Runal, the HB doesn't change the odds against selected. I agree. I think I was thinking 12 to 15%, but I think it's going to be incredibly low. Watching Ankit in Nairobi. My question is, any updates on the bill for unused visas? And the answer is no. No, there's nothing out there. The thing is this, though. If USCIS does not use all of this year's numbers again, there have been at least, I think, twice in the last 30 years, Greg, Congress has passed a law to recoup unused numbers, if I'm not mistaken. I know they did it in the late 90s, early 2000. I think
they did it for the nurses. They did it for the nurses, and
they did it for everybody at one point. That
Right.
was Spencer Abraham.
Yeah, they did it for the nurses, I think in 2005, and it was for 50. They reclaimed 50,000 for that. They haven't done anything since. I think the number is really high because of all the wastage under COVID. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if it's about 400,000 or 500,000.
It's going to be a lot. Lily, Legatum is happy to see you. It's awesome. Anan Banan, are you the regional ban for Russians, even those who want to escape fascism? I am not expecting that. They are the Biden administration is generally not using a sledgehammer when a little peaky hammer will do. And so they're gone after the oligarchs and their families this time. And we'll see if they go after their children, because that's where all the money's going to be. That's what happened in 2014. So, but no, I don't think there's going to be a general ban.
I do see an uptick in asylum applications, a substantial uptick, because for a lot of these, especially there's 4,800 Russian students on F1 visas in the U.S. right now, and 99% of them are not the children of oligarchs.
Right.
A lot of those, and they all have been cut off from the money from their families.
Money's worthless. It's worthless.
Right. So they got a big problem, and they're not. And I doubt they're going to do any. I doubt the administration is going to do anything for that population, given the circumstances. So I see a lot of those people filing for asylum claims, because they're going to burn their passport and then claim that asylum itself is evidence of a persecution, which I think are probably fairly legitimate things to actually document that you're anti-Putin, because if you do those things and you go back to Russia, you will probably be arrested.
This is not unlike what happened in Turkey 5 years ago during the fake coup. We filed a lot of Turkish student asylum cases. I think we'll see the same thing here. Alice is a good question. And I think Greg is, the unused numbers are not in the reconciliation bill. They're not. They're just not.
There's Congress is talking about. I have seen draft legislation on that. And it was in Build Back Better, but I've also seen some that focus on specific Muslim ban countries. So it's hard to say, but I wouldn't hold your breath.
Britt points out that some Africans with high numbers are already getting interviewed in April, so that's a good sign. Let's see. I requested update early bird price date FAQ in case one of you realized while you were enjoying your vacation. Thanks, Simon. I appreciate that. Let's see. Britt also asks, it seems Frankfurt is a standard place for Ukrainians, but it's dynamic. We even saw Vienna saying they're cutting services now to help with Ukrainian overflow. Right. Vienna is beautiful too. And there was a massive protest on Sunday there. I guess it was good to see. K-1 Manila plaintiffs. Is that written in Russian? Manila. What is that, Greg?
That's a Filipino flag.
Oh, Manila. Okay, quickly. The judge will finally. Well, the judge is not going to be happy when he sees our filing, so I remain hopeful.
We hope.
Right.
But we know we filed it in. Was it at the beginning of April last year?
Yes.
I mean, it really is almost a year.
Yeah. So.
And some of the folks still stuck at NVC there are a couple who have early 2020 DQ dates. So some of you have been sitting at NVC documentarily qualified for 2 years.
All right. So last question here from Britt Simon: if Ukraine gets TPS, any technical reason to stop the DV AOS?
Yeah, TPS runs on a completely separate track, And I can tell you over the years, for example, I've had doctors that, because I do a lot of doctor cases, that were on J1s and they were, on waiver tracks and all this kind of stuff. And I always recommended get TPS as sort of a side on a side track. There's no reason why you can't get it if you're adjusting status. What I am curious about, because I just had this query come in, it's not really directly related to this, but it's about DV adjustment of status, is, given the fact that state is doing so little work on the DV cases, I've had somebody inquire, it's like, I'm visiting my brother in April. What happens if I file for adjustment of status for DV? And it's like, normally I would be really, conservative about it, but is USCIS really going to punish somebody on that issue if they file an adjustment application when state is basically completely abdicate?
I would wait 60 days, but then I would file.
Right.
Now, keep in mind, this is a piece of advice that I think is really good advice. Wherever you live in the country, use a lawyer, because you need somebody who has access to that local office, because you have to be adjusted by September 30th. So you've got to use a really good, and we're happy to tell you really good lawyers' names in the local community that you live. So, I'm not going to handle a case in Maine. All right. I don't know the office, but I can hook you up with a lawyer in Maine who can walk you through that process and make sure there's an adjudication by September 30th. So I would both obey the 60-day rule, and I still refer to it as 60-day rule, I know, but 60-day rule, and I would use a local lawyer. Absolutely.
Yeah, because you're going to, if you just kind of assume that the process is going to go and they're going to figure it out and do it in a timely manner, you may be very unhappy.
Yeah. So, I think that's kind of where it stands. All right, everybody. Great to see everybody. We didn't let Aaron do a lot of talking this week. Sorry about that, Aaron.
It's better off that way. I get to listen.
I know I talk too much. That's just the way I am. And I love having Lily as part of our broadcast there. She makes us so much more focused. And Lily, I look forward to that updated Pondereco stuff tomorrow, so we can get that file.
Our team is working on it. Our awesome admin Gracie is updating our spreadsheets and cross-checking with everybody as we speak. So thank you all for.
Greg, do you want to announce the award that you're going to?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. So
awesome.
tomorrow I'm heading to Chicago for ABA Tech Show, which I go to every year.
What's the ABA, Greg?
Yeah, so the ABA is the American Bar Association. It's the mothership I'm going to in Chicago for the lawyers, the million lawyers that I think are in this country. And we are getting ImmPact Litigation is getting an award for the incorporation of technology into the practice of law for all of those onboarding apps and things that we're using that are making it a lot easier to be able to nimbly and quickly file our cases and keep track of them all and do it on a, with a relatively lean team on there. That's what we're getting the award for. So we're pretty excited.
And the ABA is recognizing that part of the importance of that, right, is that we are able to make ImmPact litigation accessible to more people. That's our the model that technology enables us to do, to be able to share legal fees.
Hey, by the way, just couple last things. Morocco has scheduled 200 DV cases, issued 220 visas, but ask Britt Simon about predictions. Don't ask us about predictions. And congrats to DV winners in Morocco. And Alice did mention this, that there is a bill with clause 409. That's actually a Beach Boys song, but if you probably don't know who the Beach Boys are, but it's a great Beach Boys song. The Meng Amendment. We have heard nothing that's in the bill.
Well, that's a good question. I have not heard. I had heard that it was not going to be there, but they also haven't done an omnibus in a long time. It's always been basically just straight extensions. So I'm going to check on that today.
And yes, stop H-1B abuse. The judge knows it's March 1st. But there's nothing we can do about that. All right, everybody. It's been great being with you. And we will see you next Monday. Tomorrow, who's on live tomorrow? I'm on live tomorrow.
I'm on today in an hour and 15 minutes.
Aaron, what about you?
You're a Thursday.
Thursday. All right. So tune in. either in Twitter, on our YouTube channels, on our Facebook page, and even on LinkedIn. All right. See you guys later.